Hello and welcome to another episode of Comprehending Consciousness. My name is Allie with Amory Speaks, and this is episode 32 already. Concept for today in this video is going to be breathwork. And as I mentioned in the previous video, I felt it was a great follow-up to meditation, which was episode 31. So if you're new here, if you're new to my channel and you didn't see that one, I will link it below so you can check that out too if you're interested in meditation. But as I was wrapping that video up, I slid this topic in there, right? Kind of, they go together really well to me, and to so many others, right? It's not just to me. But they are such a perfect pairing, you know? Peanut butter and jelly or salt and pepper or sweet and sour, whatever your kind of go-to pairing is. Meditation and breath work for a lot of us is that same kind of celebration of partnership, you know, symbiotic, organic relationship that just melts together and just works really well. So I thought it would be a great idea to, of course, follow that episode up with an episode on breathwork. If you are new here and you haven't seen any of my other videos, I do have like 30 other just in this series alone on comprehending consciousness. And this series, these sets of videos are really set up to just tackle a topic, sort of informational, educational kind of introduction to what the topic is, to how the conscious community sees it, to some of maybe the mainstream confusion or misconceptions around the ideas, and then sort of my own personal flavoring that I put on them. And I, really hope to create this whole series as sort of a bridging of the gap between 3D and 5D. People who are kind of, newly waking up or sort of asleep, and those of us who've been awake for a while and who are really working to create newness and to create new communities and new ways of life. And so this is my little offering and free service here to talk about some of the words, terms, and phrases that are really trickling down, and I think it's just a wonderful sign. I think it's, part of the ascension process. So this is in my hopes of ushering people along gently, those who are new and who want more information, right? Give you a nice start off, a nice tour of the tip of the iceberg, I usually say, right? And then leave you with your gear. Leave you in your time in your life to go do the digging, the dives, whatever it is, your callings, at your own pace, and to reach out to resources that resonate with you, or grab references of similar paths that you've already taken, or individuals that you are drawn to, or that you enjoy their opinion and information. You can check out what they're saying about it, or whatever. So that's my little preamble here at the beginning. Like I said at the start, this episode is on breathwork, and so let's jump into it. First and foremost, what I'll say here is that the initial responses I see when I bring up breathwork or talk about breathwork with anybody, whether it's people on the internet, or it's people in my real life, in my direct life, or where I live, my friends, people I interact with, in my job and things, right? Essentially, I kind of get either three responses. The first one, of course, is like they know what I'm talking about. We're on the same page, and they're like, I love breathing. Breathing's so important, right? They already get it. And then there's the second person who's like, I breathe all the time. I know breathing's important. Like, I get the biological function and the necessity of oxygen and CO2 exchange. I know what it's going on, but I just do it. I don't pay any attention to it. And this will be usually of one of two reasons. Like, people will be like, I'm not a runner. or I don't do heavy exercising, or I'm not a dancer or something, they'll be like, I'm not active, and so I don't need to ever do breath training or breath practice or breath work. They won't even really be introduced to that, because a lot of times those of us who kind of get introduced to it, we're doing something active, usually a sport or something, and we get into it because or singing, you know what I mean, or musician, you know, it's another thing, instruments, singing, or play acting, anybody who's using their physical vessel to sort of showcase something, right? Showcase a skill or an enjoyment. Then we know, or we get introduced to these different breathwork practices, and we kind of understand there's different kinds of breathing, and why we breathe, and what capabilities are unlocked when we breathe in certain ways. And so that's kind of like my middle ground person who they kind of know about breathing, or they might know a little bit about it, but they don't do it, and it's not for them, kind of in the middle thing. And then the third person, or the third kind of reaction that I get a lot of times, is that kind of like, what? You're totally crazy, and my idea of breath work is something that I like saw in a Hollywood movie, maybe a comedy where they're making fun of it, where there's like sweaty people all in like a circle in some room, like moaning and breathing and swaying and doing weird things, and they make it like really out of this world, kind of out of body experiences, you know, like they take it over the top. And people will take that image of like breath work and think that all of it is like that. And for many, it just puts it totally off. You know, it puts it up on the shelf and adds it in with like, I don't know, hallucinogens or something. Something like most people probably would never be into, you know what I mean? Wouldn't even get into. And that's kind of the boxes that I usually see responses of. Wherever in the phase you are, this video is for you, and we're going to talk about kind of a little bit of all of them. But I just wanted to give just a brief little outline of kind of the 3 steps of interpretation. Of course, I want to, as much as I can, kind of deter that, put a stamp on it as crazy and put it away, you know, put a stamp on it as out there, or hippy-dippy, or people who do drugs, or yogis, or spiritual people, or whatever, and just like say it's definitely not for me, and put it away. That type of mentality is exactly what I want to curb and deter with this Comprehending Consciousness series, right? Even if you have that kind of box around it, that's okay, you know, keep it in the box if that's what feels good for you, and put a label on it, but don't put it up on the shelf and forget about it. Don't throw it away. Let's look at it for a little while and understand, why is it making you uncomfortable? Why do you feel like you have to not look at it, right? That's what I want to encourage people to kind of understand within themselves, you know, why they have these kind of preconceived notions and deterrence against certain things or phrases or actions, right? And just to bring it in, and just to, you know, alleviate some of these people's, you know, mainstream worries, the Hollywood version, right? Of course, like, there is a whole section of the pie that sort of involves tantric breathing, or kundalini, and all of these kind of the chanting, or you know, more of a sensual or even a sexual version of breath work, and of everything, of learning and discovery, and of having that kind of entire entity and body available to you to incorporate into your life, you know. That's a section of the pie, but it's not everything. And if it's not for you, or it's not at your level of comfortability for right now, it doesn't mean the whole rest of the pie is no good, right? It's fine to just say, all right, well, that section doesn't really resonate with me right now, and I don't want to take it that deep, and see what else is out there, right? Because there's lots of other workings and understandings that come along with breath work. So let's talk about a more of a superficial level, kind of a beginner's thing first here of breath work, which I like to call conscious breathing, or mind. A lot of people call mindfulness. Um, but being conscious in the present moment is such a crucial mental practice and an energetic practice. And as we grow as individuals and, want to be on a journey of our own purpose and gaining, spiritual awareness and conscious awareness, we realize the worth and the possibilities and the workings available in the present moment all the time to us. And we want to get there, and we want to stay there. And a lot of times, it's just as I was talking about with meditation. This is why these two go really, really, really well together, because meditation in itself is a clearing of the thoughts, right? Of centering of that kind of frenetic, electric, logical signalings that we have going on, our thought bodies all the time. Calming them down, bringing things into the present moment so that we can, gain more conscious awareness, make better choices, access deeper information, access intuition, and listen to our heart center in the present moment while we're moving through life. Catalysts, obstacles, choice points, all of those things, and meditation helps that to bleed through, because while you're sitting and practicing it just for that chunk, later on, it bleeds through into everyday life. And breath work works exactly like that. And also, meditation and breath work, you're breathing while you're meditating. And a lot of times we're focusing on the breath to calm the thoughts. And that's where a great relationship with the breath can really get built in. And this is why I like to segue from meditation to breath work as well, because I've already kind of talked about a little bit of the importance of that kind of stuff. So let's tie in conscious breathing. Conscious breathing in itself is just personalized and in the moment breathing, feeling the breath, allowing the breath to fuel your movements, and allowing the breath to flow like your spirit, not to be contained, not to be forced, not to be held or withheld from. And so with conscious breathing, kind of for beginners, the first thing is noticing your breath, noticing how you breathe throughout the day and how that changes, and noticing your breath patterns and your habitual kind of physical ways that you breathe, and what the patterns are there, right? And I'll give a personal example for myself. When I first started doing yoga and meditation and breathing and stuff, I realized I retain my breath a lot. I hold my breath a lot. I would find myself throughout the day, like, taking a deep breath, like, oh, wow, how long have I not been breathing for? I kind of like just, I'm not sure, what would cause it or why it would, but I started to pick up on those cues. And then I started to realize, I feel much better when I slow down. And when I notice that when I'm doing that, I take deeper breaths, And it became an evolutionary process to me, to where I noticed that I do it when I'm caught up thinking a lot, or I do it when I'm doing a lot of processing or concentration. And that was opened up a new avenue of working for me, so that in my present moment and throughout my days, that I could tap into the breath while concentrating and use the breath to fuel my concentration, more thoughts and more intuition. And that became a great little stepping stone for me. Another thing great for beginners here that I'll talk about right at the first start is understanding how the breath works and understanding about the importance of breathing. All of us, like I said at the very beginning, right, we all know we breathe, and we all understand the physicality, the chemistry that's going on. Everybody's taught about taking in oxygen, breathing out CO2, right? That in itself it's basic, and it does. And our beautiful parasympathetic nervous system takes care of all of that. We have beautiful automated, our autonomic system that kind of just does all the automated stuff for us. And we just kind of don't even think about it. We don't even appreciate it. And so step one, first of all, is appreciating your lungs. Having gratitude for this mechanism that does kind of override your conscious thoughts, and it takes control, and it takes care of your body for you. So feeling tapping into gratitude and love for that whole respiratory system can be a great starting place. And that can work with meditation as well. You know, you can do silent times, or you can find guided ones that will take you down into your lungs or into your heart or through your bloodstream, for oxygenated and feel the blood flowing through you and everything, and go on these great sort of visionary explorations to get more connected with the physical vessel. And that's one way to do it, and it's great. Another great thing to do at the very start is to notice how you breathe. And this can be sort of, I will say, like most people who don't understand breathing and haven't really thought about it, when they take a breath in, this happens. When you take a deep breath, your shoulders come up and like your chest comes up here, and you feel it kind of like all up here. You take a deep breath and it gets stored in up here. And that is a really short kind of breath. That kind of breath is really contained and tight. It causes a lot of stress. It can cause stress headaches and tensions. It can cause shoulder issues, neck issues, headaches, a lot of those kind of anxiety things that are highly stimulative. You know, they get your whole central nervous system like bells and whistles firing, excuse me. And one great thing to do is that instead of just breathing, or instead of breathing your normal way like this, up and out, when you take a breath in, see the breath traveling down, all the way down into your belly. And this is called diaphragmatic breathing. And people who are singers or musicians or do many different types of exercising or whatever, sports and stuff, will be familiar with diaphragmatic breathing. It takes practice and it takes a visualization to do it. But when you start to work with that, and when you start to allow yourself that space to breathe down into your physical vessel, not only will you get better breaths, but they'll be easier and more comfortable. And you're able to learn how to relieve stress with breathing when you're not breathing in stress and tension. So that's a great practice for people. See and visualize inward breath through the nostrils, traveling down, all the way down into the depths of your being, maybe doing a nice little, like somersault flip or a turnaround, whatever you like to see. You can see it storing down or infusing out through the body or whatever. And then the exhale comes from there and goes out. And that practice in itself, doing that throughout the day and noticing how you're breathing and bringing your breath down into your body and allowing that exhale to either breathe out stress, breathe out tension, breathe out trash, breathe out anything that no longer serves you, anything harmful, toxins. You can see it as any way that you'd like to. Using a little bit of visualization with the breath can really tap you into the present moment, and it can center you, and it fuels not just your physical vessel, but your spiritual and energetic vessel too. This is why breathing is so important, because it connects you with your spirit, and it connects you with all of the I need to fix my chair, sorry. All of the deeper levels of the body, right? And I've already talked for 20 minutes. I want to try to keep this one short. So conscious breathing throughout the day is a great way for beginners to learn how they breathe and how to be more conscious in your breath. And another thing is just feeling. And this is what I talked about with meditation too, to center yourself back in the present moment and get out of thoughts, right? Feel how the breath feels on the inhale. Feel the temperature of it, the coolness of it inside of your nostrils. Feel the way it goes down into you, and feel the heat that comes out. That is a great way to get in touch with the body. Now, another, for beginners and ways to get and tap into the breath work in itself, the actual breath work, is what should they call it? I forget like the exact word, but like timed breaths, like counting. They have so many different versions of ways to count by breathing. Classic one is box breath, which is like breathing in for 4, then you retain that in breath for 4 seconds. and then you breathe out for 4, and you retain that exhale for 4 seconds, and then you breathe in again for 4, and you retain it for 4, and then you breathe out for 4. And you could visualize it as a box. That's why they call it box breath. Some people call it 4x4 breath. That kind of cycling can really calm you down. It's really great for centering. There's so many timed breaths, but there's another one that's great for calming down or for getting ready for sleep. And it's like stretching it out a little bit more, and you're trying to like breathe in for 6 and breathe out for 8. And having a little bit longer of an exhale versus the inhale and really slowing it down. That can really calm the body down, gets the body prepared for sleeping. If you're suffering from, insomnia or anxiety or any of these really like high kind of intense issues, slow, deep breathing is wonderful. And I speak from example because I used to have anxiety. I used to be one of those people. It really ruled my world, and it was something I identified with. But not so much anymore. Not at all. But the timed breaths, yeah, they're everywhere. You can check them out. There's a million different kinds. They're super helpful. Also, yoga in itself, a lot of people think yoga is like stretching and all. You have to be flexible, or it's all about like all these poses and stuff. But really, the essence of yoga is moving the body with the breath, uniting the breath and the body, uniting movement with the breath, and that can be as simple as, taking 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, 2 minutes even, in your morning when you're sitting at the edge of your bed to practice breathing. And when you breathe in, raise your arms up. And at the top of your breath, allow them to go down. And raise them up to the top and then down. And just getting a movement that matches the breath, that in itself is so helpful. It gets all the brain and the body aligned. It wakes your body up. It adds movement to your joints. It doesn't have to be all of these really strenuous, like big moves and stuff. You can practice neck circles with breathing in when your head goes around and breathing out when it's down. Or if it vice versa feels good to you, that's fine. It doesn't have to be, one way. But finding how you can move that and stretch yourself in the mornings and at night. Anytime during the day you're feeling tension, you can match your breath work with some shoulder rolls, and that will calm you down. There's inside of yoga, there's tons of different breathwork techniques. They have names for them and everything, and so many of them, they're useful for so many things. I just want to give a quick intro here, some of the names and ideas for people. In case they're interested, you can go and check them out on your own. But just for the variety and just for eye-opening here to see how many kinds there are, right? There's deep breathing like alligator breath, where you could lay on the floor on your belly and do that diaphragmatic breathing and allow it, or even lay on your back because you can watch your belly rise and you put your hands on your belly. But if you lay on your belly, you can feel the expansion a little bit more. Great for children, overexcited children. And you breathe down into your belly and you feel your belly push up off the floor, and then on the exhale, you sink back down, and that's called alligator breath. Or there's another really simple one that's breath of fire, and that one's like a quick exhale. And on the exhale, it's like a blasting out and a tightening up. Not super tight, don't go crazy and like tighten your body, causing stress and tension. But just a pushing out. And then the inhale's really relaxed. It just happens naturally. And a lot of people do that and sit for a few minutes. And that one's great for getting a nice internal flame sparked up, for feeling intuition, for getting in touch with your spiritual body, for igniting your eternal flame, for getting creative things flowing, the juices going. That breath of fire is wonderful. Some people call it skull shining breath. I think that one's so cool to call that. And if you get into it, and when caution to everybody first and foremost, obviously, but take your time and never push yourself. But if you really get into it and you let it go for a little while, you can get a real head rush from it. It can be really, really amazing. Let's see, what's another one that's super kind of obvious? Alternate nostril breathing I'll mention, because I really do love this one as well. And this is great for balancing. and for calming and for centering your mind, or your energy, your light, your dark. Maybe you have some aggravation or frustration or anger, or you got like rage or something going on and you're trying to get out of it, and or sadness. A lot of times, you know, if you have happy and sadness battling each other, alternate nostril breathing is wonderful for that. And that one is like, a lot of people use like these two kind of fingers if you've got a small face, or you can even use these two, or some people like to do pinky and a thumb, or it's up to you, whichever fingers are comfortable to you. And you plug your nostril one side and you breathe in, and as you're at the top you hold it, and then you plug the other side and exhale out that side and let it all go, and then easily breathe in again on the same side, and then plug again and switch, and out, and then in, and you hold and you plug and you switch, and then you release, and you go through this, like, slow it down. You know, it doesn't have to be rushed. Another thing that's really great for is congestion too, nasal congestion, and allergies and stuff like that. You know, of course, if it's super blocked, then it gets really difficult. You can't really do it. But if it's just coming on, or it's starting to really clear up and go away, great time to integrate that alternate nostril breathing. Let's see. Another thing that I will mention quickly, different real types of breathing to get into, is breath work that's guided by others. And that's kind of the other section of breath work. This gets into when you really, you find a value in breath work, and you want to learn more about it, and you want to get involved, you want to actually make a practice of it and stuff. There's so many wonderful people out there who do guided breath work exercises and who teach more about breath work in general. And for myself, I have been doing Wim Hof breathing for almost 4 years now. You know, I started in middle of 2019, I'm pretty sure. And that really, I absolutely love the Wim Hof method. I cannot speak. I'll probably do a whole video on it. I've wrote articles on, already about it. I wrote a whole blog, a thank you blog, and talked a lot about how that changed my life. I can't speak enough about it. Wim Hof breathing is cycles, and you do 30 or so deep breaths, breathing in and breathing out straight away, in and out, and making the breath cycle in and out. And that's another, actually, I kind of missed that in the lead up of the cycles of breath, but another great way for conscious breathing. Wim Hof is a little bit more sped up, and not hyperventilating, you know, but it's more of a real kind of big breaths that you're doing. But just for conscious breathing alone, or for relaxation in general, if you can try to turn your breath cyclic at a relaxing pace for yourself, and what I mean by that is that on the inhale, allowing it naturally to peak, and when you feel it peak, as soon as you feel it peak, release the exhale. And as soon as you feel the exhale ending, bring in a new breath. Like that. And when you visualize the sequential cycle of it, and you allow each one to lead you into the next, you can't get dragged off into other thoughts. You can't get into, you know, logical things, or get dragged away, or start retaining breath, or start like shallow breathing, or start getting up here in your shoulders, whatever kind of habitual thing that you usually get into. Because your mind is so taken up with this cycling, and with noticing when one cycle is done and the next is starting to begin, and then realizing the next is ending and this is beginning, that you can really live inside that cycle. And then you're not thinking about your worries, or your what ifs, or your anger, or whatever it is, you know. And then you have a clean slate to go and reapproach, or redirect your attention to either something else, or to that find better solutions that are more positive in the moment, that you couldn't tap into because you were so caught up in emotions, right? And Wim Hof really taught me that. Because when you do, especially when you do it a little bit quicker, like we were doing with Wim Hof method, there's no time for thoughts. And if you get lost in your thoughts, it really, really throws a wrench in your wheels. with the breath hold portion of it, because this is Wim Hof does this about 30 cycles of deep breathing and then breath retention, and you work to hold your breath as long as comfortably possible for you, and you do that in cycles like 3 to 5 cycles. You know, you'll do a retention for as long as you can, and then and then let it go, and then start a new cycle of the 30 breaths and the retention and letting it go, and then another cycle, and do 3 or 5 of them in a row. And it's amazing. And if you never have heard of Wim Hof, check him out. Put him in a search. Go watch a quick video on him. He's everywhere. He's wonderful. He really is such a huge personality, and he's changing lives all over the world. So, I mean, not even if you want to go listen to him directly, you can listen to people who's just like me. There's thousands of us with videos out there and documentaries and all types of stuff on how it's impacted and changed our lives. That, and along with cold therapy, Wim Hof is huge with cold therapy, cold showers and ice baths and stuff like that, which I totally love as well. But centering on breath work here and just on the breathing, you know, that alone is wonderful. I can't say enough about it. And there's others, you know, there's a couple of other channels on YouTube that I really enjoy that do some guided breath work. One of them is called Breath and Flow, I think. I'll link some links in the description for everybody on some of the guided breath work that I really enjoy. Because it's opens up such a huge door of working. And already I'm starting, and I'm at 30 minutes, but I'm just thinking of other breath tactics that I missed about working through pain or hard emotions with breath. That is just such a huge helper, a wonderful gift of support for anybody who's working through physical pain, emotional pain, chronic pain, pain from a health crisis or an emergency situation, even birthing. And you know, I speak as a mother. Women notice, and it get proof in the pudding when we go through birth, when we go through labor, and we realize how natural and important and special breathing really is, and how it opens this huge gateway and door to working through, and to sitting with, and to allowing and accepting. And breath is such a huge, breath work through pain has been such a huge working for me. And I'll put a little plug here at the end. I'm going to do a little series of breath work for certain intentions, for moving through anger, for moving through pain, for centering, for grounding, for unconditional love, like all these things. There's so many different angles and ways. So I'm going to make a little playlist here in the near future, and we'll, you know, do a couple of guided ways through each thing. So you can, if you're interested in that and you like the way I explain things, you like my voice or whatever, you can look for those at a later day. I think around March I'm going to really get coagulated with that, so you can check that out here on YouTube. Just to close out, and I made this episode longer than I like to, but it is such a huge important topic. I just want to talk quickly about the differences in importance between breathing through the nose and the mouth. And I'll link some great videos, lectures, and references along these lines of more of the physical, medical, kind of health-wise lining of versus breathing here. Because our beautiful organic setup in our body has specific reasons that we breathe through these, that we are able to breathe these ways, right? And why and how. And if you're struggling with, you know, asthma or shortness of breath or emphysema or whatever it is, or even, you know, if you're a smoker or any of these things, you know, learning how to breathe through your nose is really, really crucial, because it draws in cleaner, more temperature-friendly air for yourself, for your lungs. When we breathe through the mouth, we are negating this whole beautiful organic system that was created within our nasal passages and down into the throat and everything. And that sort of jumps over or skips over all of the important reasons that we have nostril hairs, that we have all of these you can look into the anatomy of it, but it's pretty interesting, you know, the way the nasal cavities work and their conical shapes or spirally kind of shapes, you know, because dust particles and everything that's kind of floating around here in the air, a bunch of molecules and all types of other things, right? The body and the nostrils know what the lungs need, know what's nutrients, knows what good and bad. And if you give it the chance to run through there, it does catch a lot of the stuff that shouldn't actually come down into the lungs, that isn't caught when we breathe through the mouth. And also a lot of health problems can come from breathing through the mouth. Sleep apnea and a lot of sleep problems, snoring and that kind of thing comes from habitual mouth breathing. Because our body, as we're awake, is so used to breathing through the mouth, when we go to sleep, it starts to breathe through the mouth, which is actually not natural, really. And there's lots of great videos about how to correct that and how to get into nostril breathing and stuff. And I'm not saying that to try to force everybody to just breathe through their nose all the time, because there is, like I said, there's uses for mouth breathing, and there's great potentials for certain ways in breath to use it at different times and different actions, and if you're fueling your movements with the breath, right, then certain inhales for certain things are helpful. But mostly, the mouth should be seen for exhaling. So that's what I wanted to kind of close with, and I will put links in there if you're interested in finding some more references. I'll put some doctors that I love and some interviews with them where they've talked about this, and all the types of different breath channels that do breath work and stuff. We'll have those in the links below. Thank you so much for joining me for episode 32 on Comprehending Consciousness, although this went like double time than I usually like to. If you stayed with me for the whole thing, thank you so much. I truly appreciate your audience and you witnessing my journey here. Thank you for your beautiful service to our collective. I hope that you'll tune into me next time. See you later.